Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, our special guest is Chip Brownlee. Also, the V-Team takes a look at new leadership in the state Senate. And Judge Jacob Walker reduces Mike Hubbard's sentence. And stabs justice right in the heart. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey, y'all.
This past week, if anyone had any doubt that Alabama's criminal justice system was skewed to the rich and powerful, Judge Jacob Walker III, Lee County judge, assured us that there were two systems of justice when he slashed Mike Hubbard's sentence almost in half, Susan.
Yeah, anybody that was in the room when he made those rulings on each of the convictions, when he read the sentencing guidelines, knows that there's something not exactly right, because the way they read, everything was attached to each count. And in such a way that there was no way that Hubbard, knowing that some of the counts were going to be dismissed, knowing that there was no way that Mike Hubbard couldn't get 4 years. But then he turned around this week and figured out a way to cut that in half, even though it doesn't make any sense if you read the ruling. Yeah. It doesn't comport to what he did 4 years ago to give him 28 months now. It makes no sense.
Josh, you've said it a million times. It's just crooked in Alabama.
Yeah, it is, and you don't even really have to get into the ruling itself and what he wrote to understand it. All you need to know is that he issued the thing out after 5 years or 4.5 years or however long it's been now on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, late in the afternoon, and and that's typically the time when you do things that you don't want anybody to know about. Or you don't want to get a lot of coverage. You want it to die down quickly and make people forget because you got a long weekend coming up. And, it's just that this whole thing has been an examination in how to set up a separate ruling system for the rich and powerful in the state. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat and Republican, and you can get past that right now and stop it. If you're thinking this is okay because Mike Hubbard is a Republican, then you're part of the problem here. It wouldn't matter. Nobody did dances for Oliver Robinson in Birmingham because he did wrong and he ought to be serving his time. And the same is true for Mike Hubbard in this case. What happened here was proven to be wrong. He wrote the laws that he broke, and he blatantly violated those laws. And ever since he's been convicted by a jury of 12 regular people in Lee County that looked at this thing and said, yeah, he's guilty as hell of all of this stuff, all these 12 things that we're going to convict him on right here. Ever since that happened, the people in power in this state have tried to figure out a way to get him out of it. And they've done it. The best they could do was do half of it, which is probably pretty common for Alabama, but they got about halfway. But this is what we're dealing with here. And if you're okay with it, I don't know what to tell you, but.
Well, it's a big problem that the jury and Judge Walker had no problem with how it went down. Then it went to the Court of Criminal Appeals. They looked at it for a year, and they found one charge that they thought should be dropped, which I disagreed with. It should not have been.
That was the biggest one.
And then the Alabama Supreme Court, bought and paid for by big money donors, saw a way to strike down 5 counts that nobody, except for those people sitting on the court and those who wanted to destroy the ethics laws, ever thought he should not be guilty of. And then for Judge Walker to come back and reduce his sentence, I didn't want Hubbard to do a single day more than he was sentenced to, but not a single day less. And Judge Walker showed us that there is 2 systems of
But the
justice.
2 courts, the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Supreme Court, left intact those counts that cost him 4 years. They didn't strike those down. Judge Walker did that all on his own.
He did. And I think Josh is because he's in those Republican circles. Mike Hubbard's friends are still there. And you know what scares me is this guy's going to get out in 2 years and he's going to register to be a lobbyist.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
gonna do
listen. Here's the thing about it is when you talk about the Supreme Court, and really I think that's where a lot of the problem here lies. If this had been left alone by everybody, Mike Hubbard would have served his 4 years and gotten out. If he'd been treated, like a normal criminal, he'd still be, he would have gone to prison 4 years ago and served his time out. But the problem is, here is you had these people on the Supreme Court who are bought and paid for. Matter of fact, one of them has told people before he was ever on the Supreme Court that he didn't think Mike Hubbard ought to serve a day, and
That's
still
right.
didn't recuse himself. Didn't recuse himself from doing it. And so that sort of undermining of the law that we've seen here. I mean, Mike Hubbard broke the law. The man stole $2 million of your dollars. Okay, let's don't beat around the bush about this thing. He's not a white collar criminal. This wasn't a victimless crime. You are the victim in this crime. He took your money. He took advantage of this system that he was in control of by the power of his office, and this is what he did. And they let him off because he's a buddy of theirs.
Yep. And Judge Walker said acts of public corruption harm not just those directly involved, but harm society as a whole, and then he cut his sentence almost in half.
Yeah.
Well,
and hey, let's also not forget that this sentence should have been about 15 times higher than it was, given the minimums.
Exactly.
When we calculated it out, I think it was 80 years.
Yeah.
If he'd got consecutive on each count, it would have been 80 plus years.
Well, this is what passes for justice in Alabama. If it had been me or you or Josh or, God forbid, a black man that robbed a convenience store because he had a drug habit, or a crack addict who went in and wrote bad checks, they would have been put away, Josh. No one had cut their sentence.
No, we have this going currently. There are so many people locked up in this state for life sentences for stealing less than $100 in this state. It's impossible at this point to even find them all. So it's a whole different justice system that you're talking about here. And Mike Hubbard throughout this entirety of this case has gamed the system. And has shown exactly how it can work, from using campaign contributions to pay his legal fees, to getting donors to pay the legal fee. This whole thing has been just an exercise in corruption and an explainer for future corruption.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Hey man, what are you doing today?
Playing the game. Thought I'd go out for a drive later, maybe. Text some friends while I'm doing it. Scroll through social media. Kill a family 4 and a head on collision.
Cool, man.
Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
If you've been working, you've already proven yourself in ways you may not even notice. Managing your time, communicating effectively, and working as part of a team are key skills that employers value. At alabamaworks.com, you can find out how to build on your experience to up your game and get the job you really want, because it's out there. Start your new success story at alabamaworks.com.
Sponsored by Alabama Works, the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today is Chip Brownlee, coming to us from New York City. How are you, Chip?
Hey,
I'm doing good. Hey, good to be with y'all.
Miss you.
Yeah, we do
Miss
you
y'all
a
too.
lot. Our loss is New York City's gain.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad
Hey.
you're having me back on. I like being on with you guys.
Yeah, we like it too. We are worried that Thanksgiving is probably going to be a super spreader event, but we have already been going in the wrong direction, Chip. I mean, can you give us a breakdown of what the latest numbers are here in Alabama and what the trend line looks like?
Yeah, well, the trend line doesn't look good. I mean, you look at any of the major kind of like indices that we look at to see what direction we're going in, and none of it looks good. So if you look at cases, those are going up. We're having more cases per day in Alabama than we did during the last peak in July, which was really bad. You start looking at deaths, those are starting to go up, but we know that deaths are a lagging indicator, so that could take several more weeks to see deaths really go up to where we expect they might be with the number of cases that we have. Testing is getting a little bit better, but still pretty flat. So the increase, again, is not due to testing. If you look at the what's called the positivity rate, so if you look at the number of tests that are positive, the percentage of tests that are positive, that's also going up and is really high. And the way that APR calculates it puts it at more than 20%. So that's about 4 times the rate of a bare minimum of what it should be, which is 5%. So if you're higher than 5%, that means you're missing cases that are probably going undetected, and it just means that the disease is really prevalent in the community. So if you like take a net and you drop it into a basket and you pull out and you have 20% of those balls that are positive, that's a pretty bad sign.
I know that we've talked to Dr. Harris and experts at UAB. Are they giving any indication why we're seeing this new spike? I mean, we're seeing it all over the nation, but is there a specific reason? Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably an amalgamation of different reasons. Number one, it's getting colder, so people are doing less things outside and they're doing more things inside. And we know that eating inside, hanging out inside with friends, eating inside at restaurants particularly, or going to bars inside, all of those things are things that really contribute to a lot of spread. So I think a lot of it just has to do with people going back indoors when over the summer, or maybe earlier in the fall, a lot of things were happening outside. Another thing is I think there probably is some mask fatigue. I think there's people who maybe were more willing to wear masks early on when Governor Ivey first issued her order, and now it's getting a little old for some people, and so maybe they're not wearing masks. And I think those are probably the main contributors. But I think the biggest is probably just that we're getting into a colder fall and colder winter, and even in Alabama where, it's not super cold, people still start going inside this time of year.
That's right. And that's very true. And
It's very, very true.
And we've seen this, anecdotally, of course. People are out more often without masks. They are. They're not social distancing. I mean, one of the people we know the other day, she was at Dollar Tree or Dollar Store, and
Walmart, and Walmart
Yeah.
was elbow to elbow, and 1 in 10 people in Walmart, and it's a superstore.
Yeah.
1 in 10 people had on a mask.
And
You know,
she
and-
told people, if you didn't come in the car with me, stand 6 feet away.
Well, I mean, that's what she
that's-
should be doing. I mean, I think a lot of this. I think a lot of this is also just some fatigue. I mean, it's just people are not willing to do some of the things they were earlier on just because it's lasting so long. And I think we're going to talk a bit about vaccines, but I think some of that also, people think we're pretty much done with it when really we're not. And this could be the worst part, coming up in the next few weeks.
That was one thing I was asking you. don't you think that the rumor that there's, not rumor, but the fact that there's a vaccine out there makes people relax a little more now?
Which, yeah, there's actually 3 vaccines out there. Pretty much all of them appear like they're probably going to get approved by the FDA at some point in the coming weeks, and they're all 3 look like they're going to be really effective. And so when you look at the news and you see Pfizer saying their vaccine's 95% effective, AstraZeneca saying theirs is 70 to 90% effective, Moderna saying theirs is 95% effective, people look at that, I think, and they say, well, I mean, we have a vaccine now. I can just go about, my normal activities, and things are going to be over at some point soon. And that's just, at some point that's going to be true, but right now it's still looking like for the general public to have access to a vaccine is going to be still late spring of next year or into the summer.
Right.
It's going to be a while, and I think people feel relaxed, but what they should think is we still have a few more months of this, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so why wouldn't we be responsible now and stave off the deaths that we can stave off until we get a vaccine? I think, for me, if you look at it and you think, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, this is almost over, that gives me more resolve to, be more responsible, because I know at some point it's going to be over. Where if this was going on and we didn't have any end in sight and it was going to be years, I think we would be having to have a conversation about, like, how do we live with this in a way that's more sustainable. But now that we know that there's only a few more months left of it, that we can make it through.
Chip,
and
go ahead.
I think
sorry.
there...
No, go ahead, Chip.
Okay, sorry. I think there's also, some people are getting it again. I've heard of one person that has had it 3 times, which is just insane. And I think they're, I don't know how that fits into it. I think that's probably a small number of people, but that just shows you how prevalent it is. If you have, UAB has had several patients that have had it twice, and they've been kind of monitoring them. So that just also shows you how widespread it is, that people who've already had it once are getting it again. And that just because you've already had it doesn't mean you're immune. So those people should also still be wearing masks and social distancing as well.
Right. Well, Chip, I don't know of any reporter who has done more work on COVID-19 than you here in Alabama. You've kept a vigilant watch on that. We want to thank you for all your efforts, and hope you will stay safe. And Merry Christmas very soon.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me on.
Come on.
Yeah. All right.
Same.
Our special guest has been Chip Brownlee. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
What are you doing today, babe?
I thought I'd head down to the lake with the guys, do a little fishing. Of course, none of us will be wearing our seatbelts. I'll lose control of the truck, wrap it around a tree, and kill us all.
Okay.
Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
A lot can change in 5 years. Except those smile lines you treated with Bellafill. Because that's about how long Bellafill will keep them smooth and filled. 5 years. Now you can always look your best without all those injections, appointments, and costs. Bellafill is the only dermal filler that stimulates and maintains collagen growth long term. Now time is on your side.
What's up, Alabama? It's Bo Jackson. Do I really need to say it?
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Last week, President Pro Tem of the Senate, Dale Marsh, stepped down from his leadership position, and the Senate Republican caucus unanimously elected Senator Greg Reed from Jasper, to lead the Senate in this upcoming session and for the next couple of years. Reed was never a part of the Hubbard, Riley, Canary, and Marsh cabal. Most people see him as a reasonable, steady fellow. But Susan, how much it will change is really an unknown.
Well, don't think that Dale Marsh is not going to be in the background here. He's going to be in the background as long as he's in the Senate. I mean, I love Greg Reed pieces. I mean, he is a very stand-up, very even, kiltered guy. He's very thoughtful, reasonable, and logical. But don't think that Dale Marsh is not going to be running behind the scenes.
Well, Josh, that would be disappointing, right?
Yeah, wait, Greg Reed's a Democrat? I didn't know that. He said he was thoughtful, reasonable, and intelligent. I didn't know he was switched over to the Democratic Party. I'm sorry. No, listen, I've never had a problem with Greg Reed. And I guess probably that's the kindest thing I can say, and probably for Greg Reed's sake, the most hurtful thing I could say. Listen, I haven't. He's always struck me as a reasonable kind of guy and somebody that you could talk to. And then there are a few of those guys that just go in and do business and want to do business and want to do good things. And while we probably disagree on a lot of things philosophically, at least I have never found him to be crooked or pandering or over the top zealot. So I think that it'll be a nice change.
I think so too. I think that right now there's a lot of kumbaya going on in the Senate, and everybody's loving each other. That's because they haven't seen each other in months. But the thing is, it's a difficult job. It is because you really can't get these people together on anything but conservative red meat issues. One of the first things I think that Reed's going to have to address is this whole idea they want to punish Kay Ivey. They want to punish her for the mask mandates.
And the gas tax.
They all voted for the gas tax.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Anyway, they want to punish her for the mandates, and they're still all hurt because she exposed the crookedness of them wanting to use CARES Act, Josh, to buy a new state house.
Yeah, it's this deal with them and the mask ordinance things. That's another one of those red meat things, like you mentioned a second ago. It's easy, because there's a certain faction of people out there that are all outraged because they had to put a piece of cloth on their face to protect their fellow citizens for a little while, and so that's easy to go about doing. And I don't know. I don't think a lot of that stuff is going to get very far, because if you look at the polling on some of this stuff, it's not. You're not gaining any ground by taking this stance. Not to mention, there's about 300,000 dead Americans at this point, and and inching higher. So let's I think that maybe under a little more steady hand here, that we could actually do some business and stop worrying about some of this petty nonsense.
And Susan, I think that you and I have talked about that earlier this week, that Greg Reed has a good working relationship with the Ivey administration and Governor Ivey herself. Marsh did not.
No, there's total adversarial relationship between Marsh and Kay Ivey, and there is not with Greg Reed. I mean, they seem to get along very well. Of course, he actually listens to reason, where Dale Marsh thinks he's the only one that knows reason. So that will be a refreshing change.
Well, I hope so. I want to change the topic here to something that's absolutely speculative, and The Hill, the political magazine and website that reports on D.C. The Hill recently did a report in which they speculated on Richard Shelby stepping down from his Senate seat in 2022. And that's what we've heard too, that he plans on not running for re-election.
We've been hearing that for years.
And they have speculated that Katie Britt might be a person who would take that position, Katie Britt being the former chief of staff and now BCA president CEO. He said that Katie would make a great senator and that she was very talented. And Katie was like, whoa, it's a little, I hadn't, this is a little early on this. But Josh, there is nothing wrong with speculating about who will replace Alabama's great and senior senator, Richard Shelby, who has done so much for the state. I think it's
there's
it's
nothing
an
wrong with rampant and random speculation at all. As a matter of fact, that's what makes the world go round. And I think honestly, there are obviously a lot of worse choices than Katie Britt out there. I think we saw one of them get elected a few weeks ago. But Katie seems to be a very level-headed person, and hopefully, I would say if you're looking for somebody,
she's dropped 5 points in the polls.
Yeah, well, but I'll say this: if you're looking for somebody to go to D.C. and kind of pick up what Richard Shelby has been doing, which is kind of just quietly head down, get the money for the state, make the deals, do the things that benefit Alabama, that sort of thing. I think Katie would be a really good choice for that because I think she has the connections and she has the temperament and she's very, very likely.
Yeah.
And she's extremely driven. Extremely driven.
I hate her. And I hate her, by the way. I really can't stand her. Yeah, so maybe I'll hate her.
Other people that have been mentioned are Alabama's Secretary of State, John Merrill. They also mentioned him. They also mentioned Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth, Gary Palmer, Robert Adderholt, and Steve Marshall, which, they're head turners. I mean, I could see
Is that why he's grown that beard?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
It was a little
So people will forget who he has been all this whole other time. Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think he's going for the Duck Dynasty look. But I do think, Will Ainsworth is an attractive candidate, John Merrill as well. I think Gary Palmer may very well want to run for that seat. And there's any number of people that are going to come out of the woodworks who think they should be the next U.S. Senator. And so if Katie decides to run, she would have a crowded field, I think.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, of all white men. Yeah.
Of all white men. Well, I guess that's going to be the last word. We will miss Richard Shelby for certain. But before we go, we must remember the legendary state representative, Alvin Holmes. He passed away last week, and he will be missed.